Good evening and welcome to St. Peter's in Hove once again for the 29th time. We're taking, by my calculation, 29th, we're taking another step along the path of St. Mark's Passion account. Now, what we've looked at just yesterday, what we were looking at is the physical abuse of Jesus. We'd call it abuse nowadays. First of all, he was scourged, then he was crowned with thorns, and now he's been crucified. That is physical suffering. But for the third time also, he's subjected to verbal abuse. Remember, he was abused by the high priest's servants, then he was abused by the Roman cohort. Now he is abused as he suffers on the cross by three groups of people: the passers-by, the scribes and the Pharisees, and the two thieves who've been crucified with him. It's quite extraordinary that St. Mark should emphasize this part of Jesus' suffering. So we're at chapter 15, verse 29. The passers-by jeered at him. You'd think they'd have something better to do. Why are they passing by? These are the people going into the city, going out of the city, seeing the crucified man there. They jeer at him. They cannot resist adding to his desolation and his suffering. They shook their heads and said, "Aha, so you would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days? Then save yourself, come down from the cross." Now, they refer to the charge that was made at the trial in front of the high priest. Jesus said he'd destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. So this must have been something that was out there in the crowd, if you see what I mean, one of the sort of charges against Jesus. One of the things people believed about him, the pharmaruit, the popular idea about what Jesus was going to do. So come down from the cross, prove that you're the great guy who can rebuild the temple in 3 days. The chief priests and the scribes mocked him amongst themselves in the same way with the words, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. Let the Christ, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now for us to see it and believe." In other words, they're trying to justify their unbelief by Jesus' state of powerlessness. Even those who were crucified with him taunted him. Why? Why do people have this desire to taunt the unfortunate? The unfortunate are already suffering. Jesus is on the cross, he's already suffering. So why do they want to add to his suffering by using harsh words? Now, the harsh words don't increase his physical suffering, but the harsh words underline to the suffering man that he is totally rejected and despised by the people, as indeed the prophet Isaiah said he would be. Why mock, jeer, and criticize, I think we can say, the people who, the man who is on the cross? It's psychologically, I suppose we could come up with several reasons. One of the reasons is they're trying to justify their behavior to Jesus. They've condemned him to death. They've conspired to have him murdered judicially. Now, in their mockery, they have to sort of cement the fact that they were right and he was wrong. In other words, they're feeling guilty. Their guilt leads them to project the guilt onto Jesus. He is the one who's in the wrong. He is the one who is the charlatan, not them. After all, he's a charlatan. He's on the cross. He could save other people. He can't save himself. He's a charlatan. But the real charlatan, the real frauds, are themselves. The passers-by, people going into the city, these civilized people. That's what civilized means. It means a city dweller. Going into the city, these are the sort of people who shout abuse at a stranger who is dying by the side of the road. Not a really good look, is it? The chief priests and the scribes, men of religion, men of the law, these are the people who, because they've broken the law themselves, attribute to the just one, the Christ, the supreme breaking of the law. And the other thieves who are in their death's agony. They lash out at whoever they can lash out at. And because they're naturally bullies, they lash out at the person who everybody else is lashing out. They cannot resist joining in, even though their abuse of Jesus is completely illogical. After all, they're dying men. Why abuse somebody when you are dying? You'd think when you're dying, it might be, time for a bit of quiet reflection on how your life has gone so far and what the future holds. But no, they carry on doing what they've always done, sort of being unkind to other people. I think we need to reflect here on the reality of sin, what John Paul II called so rightly mysterium iniquitatis, the mystery of iniquity. How can people be so beastly to each other? That's what the mystery of iniquity boils down to. Why is it that sin constantly rises within us? Why is it that we can sink to such depths? Well, the answer is because man without God is lost in the world. That first Good Friday was a scene of great desolation for Jesus on the cross. I think that's desolation's the opposite of consolation. Desolation's a very good word. He was made desolate on the cross, principally by the words and actions of his fellow human beings, principally by the mystery of iniquity, by our propensity to sin. May God have mercy on us all. We've all been there. We've all insulted other people. We've all had hateful thoughts. May God have mercy on us all. Okay, all the best. That's step 29. We'll be back tomorrow for step 30. Good night.